the theme and the message is coming back around perception, projection, forgiveness. This deep, deep, deep message that never changes. As within, so without. As you believe, so you perceive. So the mind training comes down to look at your mind, look at your mind. You can always look at your mind because it's both the inner experience and the outer reflection. That's your mind. It's nothing outside of the mind. So any annoyance, any unsettled feeling or rage or sadness, it all originates from the mind, from deep within the mind. Then it's dissociated. First it's believed to be real, and then it is seen outside. There is a dissociation happening. And God is always there, in a way, patiently waiting, although I don't think he knows what waiting is, because he's just experiencing oneness. God is. But in our experience, we're cut off from God. And when our willingness is there, even if it's not full, God will rush into our awareness. I was thinking of the prodigal son, the story of the prodigal son, and how he was squandering his father's inheritance on riotous living, whatever that means, crazy living, like spending his inheritance in the wrong place. He was spending it on women, food, and then he ended up without money, without the inheritance, because it was all spent on drinking and partying, and he ended up sitting with pigs and eating pig food because that was all he could get. And in that state, he changed his mind and said, I really want to come back to my father, but I feel so ashamed. I feel so bad because I left my father and I squandered my inheritance. And then he made his way back with this deep shame and probably even thinking he would be punished. And his father just greets him with those big open arms and says, I'm going to make a big feast for you because you're coming back. And that's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful analogy for the spiritual journey and for how this deep guilt and shame that is coming from this idea that we've separated from our father and we have squandered the inheritance. We have tramped or stepped on the gift that God gave us and said, no, I don't believe that. I want this. I want this world. So there is shame to come back. But when we do find that little willingness in the mind to come back, of course, God will greet us. I mean, and this is just kind of a story or an image about it, but we need stories because that's the way the mind thinks in specifics. And to know that we're welcome back. And even in that story, the brother is jealous and says, Father, why do you give him a feast when he did so much bad? And you never do a feast for me. And the father is like saying, but you're always with me. you're already with me. So that's another example too, how we make this comparison and make a difference and get jealous and see others as getting more or better. But that's just because we believe in individuality, and we believe there are some that are different than us and different from our mind. So that's the projection. And on the timeline and in the world, it's constantly happening because it's making up the timeline and the world. It's constantly happening on the timeline. So the way out is to get off the timeline and to take the projections back and look at the rage and the anger, the belief that someone has done something to me, to look at that and question that. Maybe that is not true. Maybe that is not true. Maybe that was a dream, that my mind was dreaming because of fear, because of wanting to try to turn my back to God, wanting to try to get more than everything, wanting to try to get specifics, thinking that is more than everything. So that's picture, that's example of what's happening in the mind. And if there isn't supreme peace, lasting peace and happiness, this is what's happening. If there is slight discomfort, annoyance, or rage, or anger, or fear, this is what's happening. So the inner journey is just this deep inner discovery of removing the blocks to God and to love's awareness. And again, we get from the Course that you are the dreamer of the world of dreams. No other cause it has, nor ever will. Nothing more fearful than an idle dream has terrified God's Son and made him think that he has lost his innocence, denied his Father, and made war upon himself. So fearful is the dream, so seeming real, he could not waken to reality without the sweat of terror, the scream of mortal fear, unless a gentler dream preceded his awakening and allowed his calmer mind to welcome, not to fear, the voice that calls with love to waken him, a gentler dream in which the suffering was healed and where his brother was his friend. God willed he wakened gently and with joy, and gave him means to waken without fear. And that can be, and for us here, that's community. That's the gentler means to waken without fear. It's still, there will be still a lot of facing of lots of emotions, but it's very gentle because you have equals. You have brothers and sisters to share with, to go through this with, to fully discover that there is only mind. That there are no bodies, no other people. That's why we're symbols for each other. Sometimes symbol of a teacher or a healer or a helper. That is like someone to hold hands with that seems to be in the flesh while this is gone through.